Hello! So in this video we're going to go over documentation really quick. So you can see I have my documentation for my engine. I've updated it to include my system and also the terrain. Several other things you can see here in module. I've included my terrain object manager, collidable sprite, brainable, which is actually going to be my system I talk about next video. Yeah, so I included colors, pretty much all that stuff. I've kept it updated, and yeah. So if I go over here, I'm going to talk about actually my system, since this video doesn't really have a whole lot else going on. So my system that I created my sound system, and then I also created my AI system, and I'm most proud of my AI system. So I want to talk about that right now. So in my actual tank, my enemy tank, I actually have an AI called the Brainable. And you can see here in my AI, I have set multiple attributes, including a mode, to my Brainable. Now, in my system, I have created different modes for it. So this is basic, and basic just it'll seek out, attack the enemy, reposition, basic, I'm alive type stuff. I also added it to Team B. The reason why I added it to Team B was because Team A is where the player is. So anybody who's on Team B will automatically seek out anybody who's on Team A and will try to attack and kill that person. I also have a basic attack speed, the missile speed, object range. So this is basically everything that is included with the AI. So if I go down to the update, you can see that in update, I'm just executing the brain. And then I'm updating the position, which gets the object world from the actual brainable, and then it updates the graphic object. So if I look in here, you can see all of this is documented, and this is all my system, my Brainable that I've created. And this is just all AI. These are all private methods. And you can see that it's actually a pretty intricate system. So let me explain this to you really quick. So the Brainable is like the overhead. And inside of the Brainable, there's actually an alarm, with multiple different things that can go on. There's a command library, which basically just goes over, the different functions and the movements that the character, the brain, should do. Spar, move forward, turn to, seek, get enemy. And then here we have a missile in a missile factory. And this is basically just the Brainable having its own projectile. So if we go back to the Brainable, you can see that it has its own, factory, or actually the factory is a singleton of all projectiles from all Brainables, but it has its own missiles. It has its own graphics for the missile, and it will assign this to every single projectile it sends out, and you can see that it's separated via the categories that the Brainable's trying to deal with. So it has all of these functions, but then it also has its own state machine, which is what I ended up creating. So you can see here that there's a state machine, and this is kind of sort of like prototype, so that's why there's more than one class in this file. I just didn't have enough time. What I ultimately wanted to do was create more functions, more classes, just more stuff for the state machine to do, but I just didn't end up having enough time to properly deliver what I wanted to deliver. So yeah, so if you see here, I can start up the game, and you can kind of see the character's behavior. There's going to be some visualizers in here, just to prove that the visualizer works. These are self pairs. And the reason that there's self pairs, and you can see here, look, I can push them. I can actually push them. And it makes me really happy. He actually killed me because I was just like in his face too much. But you can see here that I can push these guys. And they're firing and they're moving around. But I can push them. And that makes me really happy because I found that out. And I found out how to, you know, make them not have collision. So if I go here, watch. If I make these two tanks collide, they're going to come for me. And as soon as they get into range, they're going to start acting unpredictably. And then I'm going to make them collide. So let's see. They'll collide. One of them collide. There's 4 of them. See how they collided and they pushed away from each other? And they're now moving in the opposite direction of each other. See how they move? Like, see how they were colliding and now they're moving in opposite directions from each other? You can see that they're actually doing that. I just died again. But you can see that they're actually alive. They're actually, like, responding to each other. And that was my biggest goal during this see how now they're moving away from each other. That was my biggest goal. My biggest goal was because I felt like this world was so heavy. See how they're moving away from each other again? I felt like it was just so... They're going to come in and they're going to move away from each other again. Yep. I felt like the world was so... just... It didn't have any impact. So I felt like it was really important for me to add that level of brevity and, create, some form of weight in this world that I was creating. And I'm really happy, like when I move into him, I push him away. I can't do it for too much because they actually shoot me. So if I get too close, they'll just shoot me to death and I'll die. But you can see here that I'm pushing him away. But yeah, so basically, my focus was on the AI of this game. I wanted the AI to be really solid because in my personal goal is actually to pursue AI on some form of level. That's actually when I wanted to go to graduate school. If I pursued video game development, I wanted to work on AI. I just think AI is a fascinating thing to do, and I'd like to work on that. So I'm going to show you in here how I have these collision functions set up so that when I collide, I'm actually pushing these guys out of the way. So you can see here, the enemy tank, and then I just kind of push him, the movement difference, and then I apply that to his position, and I add it to me. But basically, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's actually pretty much it. Let's see if I forgot anything. This is the wrong document. So yeah, besides the actual documentation, which is right here, I'm going to include that in the actual file. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think of anything else. I guess I'll add another video. Oh, the skybox. I did add a skybox. You can see that when I boot up the game. You can see that in the corner of the screen. See how it's right here, the skybox right there? I added the skybox, and it is in the scene only because I did not have an opportunity to fully implement it. So I did create the skybox, I created the terrain, everything's pretty much, absolutely everything's in this game. The only thing I did not have proper time to implement was the sound. However, I do have the sound manager and the sound system, so I just ran out of time. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on Tuesday.